she went through 12 babysitters before she was a year old, including my own mother, who said they'd never watch her again.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. My name is Reesa and I'm your host. We are talking to real families about real stories here on The Real Family Eats, where we've got food for thought and thoughtful food. So let's eat. My guest today is Melissa. Hi, Melissa. Thank you so much for being a guest on our show today.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to hear about the story that you're going to share with us today. But first, if you could, for those that don't know you, introduce yourself for us.
So I'm Melissa. I'm a doula. So I help women give birth, help them through pregnancy and postpartum. I love it. And I went to college for child and infant development and psychology. So I feel like I had a pretty good road to understanding parenthood before I had kids. And then they confused me. But
don't they, though? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so that's why I'm here.
Very cool. So you're a doula in Las Vegas, correct?
Right.
Perfect. Do you have any way, like if folks end up wanting your support, your awesome support, that they can kind of reach out to you or contact you? How does that work?
So mostly I do friends and family. I actually have taken a step back from it for the moment, just because I'm trying to focus on the last little bit with my kids before school starts. And so I'm kind of like an on again, off again doula. I'm an independent. So if people reach out to me on Facebook or they know me, like I'll be their doula, but I'm not trying to do it too much at the moment.
That's totally fair.
Assuming.
Yeah, I imagine so, to kind of be that support person, especially with such an unknown, like giving birth. You never know when the little kiddo wants to kind of come into the world.
We're on call 24/7 for a 5-week period. So
oh my goodness,
hard to plan your life.
Yeah, I imagine so. But gosh, I imagine that that's so helpful to kind of have someone that's in their corner. Very cool. Well, okay, tell us what recipe you're going to teach us today and kind of why you chose that one.
So I'm doing spinach and artichoke dip. It's my cheat of like how to get veggies into my kids.
Yes. I feel like that's a theme I'm hearing a lot from parents.
Yeah, you got to get those in. And then my kids, they've always been a little under the growth chart. So their pediatrician is always trying to get me to fatten them up with the healthy fats. So like cheese.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
So
wonderful.
Yeah, my pediatrician is always like, get cheese, get butter, get peanut butter, any of that healthy fat. So this has cheese, it has veggies. So it's like, it works for us.
Perfect. And so I saw this one was from delish.com. Is that a website that you love for like recipes? Have you found a lot that you like on there?
Yeah, it's really good. I love it because it has lots of easy recipes and like good and tasty ones. And that's what I need. I need something easy, quick, healthy.
Yes.
I can't have 3 hours in the kitchen for one meal, as much as I would love to.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so tip for parents, maybe take a look on there for some recipes.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Very cool. Okay, so walk me through, what am I starting with first, and then we'll chat.
So preheat your oven.
Okay, got my oven. Perfect.
Okay, so then you just take all the ingredients and you're pretty much dumping them all in. It's cream cheese, mayonnaise, sour cream, all kinds of different cheese, artichoke hearts, spinach, garlic. You pretty much just dump it in the bowl and mix it.
Perfect. So I can do that. I am a good dump and mixer. So, all right. While we do that, I would love to hear, I know you're going to share a story a little bit about kind of your journey, what it was like from going from one kiddo to 2 kiddos, and kind of some of the uniqueness about that piece of it. And I'd love to kind of know more.
So my first kid, she was the unicorn child. She was the, like, if you look up perfect baby, like the one who slept through the night right away, the one who started talking by 18 months, the like you could take anywhere. Like she was that unicorn. And so I thought I had motherhood in the bag. I was like, I know exactly what I'm doing. Like, because I was breastfeeding, I was baby wearing, I was like applying all the research from my psychology classes that I had taken. I was like, yeah, I got this.
Yeah.
And then
oh, famous last words, right? Oh yeah, I got this. I know what I'm doing.
This is easy. Yeah, I thought motherhood was easy. And then I had my second born. And, you know, people used to say, you know, your kids are going to be different. Like, and to me, I don't know, maybe I thought like, oh, one kid's going to be into pop music and the other's going to be into rock and roll. You know, when people say kids are different, I was thinking like cute things like that.
That's fair.
Like, yeah, that's cool. I can support their different personalities. No, the second one, she was a dragon. Like full blown. She came out screaming, and she didn't stop screaming for the first 3 years of her life.
Oh my goodness. I imagine that's really overwhelming, especially when you've got another kiddo kind of that you're trying to care for at the same time.
Yes. Yeah, it was a lot. It was very intense. Because all of the things that I thought I knew, especially, you know, like from my first one where I thought like, I got this, I know exactly what to do. I know how to handle all the things. Like none of it worked. None of it helped her.
Oh my goodness.
And she would scream if she was happy, if she was sad, everything, if any emotion more than like, it was screaming. And she could scream for hours. She wasn't someone who could scream herself to sleep. She could stay awake for 3-4 hours at a time screaming. And so she went through 12 babysitters before she was a year old, including my own mother, who said they'd never watch her again.
Just because the screaming was too overwhelming?
No one knew how to make her stop or how to help her or like why. Like everything triggered her. So and we did find out when she was like 2 months old that she had lip ties, tongue ties, cheek ties. We got it revised. So that helped.
Can you, before you go on, for anybody who doesn't kind of know like what the ties are, can you tell us just a little bit more about what those are? How did you discover that, and kind of what does revising look like?
So with the tongue ties, it's like that string under the bottom of your tongue. You know, if you lift it up, you kind of have like a string looking thing. It's too tight. And you can have those on your cheeks and your tongue, your lip, whatever. So she had it all over. She didn't just have one. She had like 5 or 6 of them throughout her mouth. And the problem is when you have those ties, it's almost like you're keeping your neck hostage. Like if you pull your tongue to the back of your throat and try to move, try to function, it's very difficult. And so the dental pediatrician, there's a different name for it. Pediatric dentist that we took her to, they kind of explained it as like, it's very triggering for babies because it's like their tongue is holding them hostage and it hurts, it's uncomfortable, it gives them headaches. And so it's very upsetting for them. And so it was very cool when we went and did the revision. Literally, I handed them this very upset baby. And they took her back I felt like it was less than a minute. I had time to sit down in my chair and then pop back up. And they were like, oh, here's your baby. Because it was just, they took a little laser and went zit, zit, zit throughout her mouth. And that was the revision. And they handed her back to me and she was smiling. I was like,
really?
Who is this? Like, they gave me back a smiling baby. I was like, oh, whose baby is this? Like,
yeah, wow. An incredible, like just a shift, like you said, within just minutes.
Yeah, it was instantaneous. She was a smiling, happy baby for the first time in like 2 months of her life. And so the way we had discovered it is when she was born, her midwife had like kind of mentioned, oh, I think I might see a tongue tie, but she had mentioned it, you know, amongst like being born and me giving birth. And there was
yeah, so a lot of stuff happening. Your mind's not necessarily going, oh, tongue tie, sure, yeah.
Yeah. And so it was sort of one of those things that like stored and like kind of forgot. And then after a couple of months of being like, what is going on with this baby? I was like, wait a minute. I had a little light bulb moment. Like, wait, my midwife had mentioned that there was like, she thought she saw a tongue tie. So I took her to get a consultation with a pediatric dentist, and they were like, oh yeah, she's got more than a tongue tie. Like, she is
wow,
all the ties. And so we got that done. That helped a lot, but also she was still very trigger happy. Like, she was still a screamer. She was still just she was not a happy baby. And so we get to the point, fast forward, like, I think she was like a little over a year. So I kept her home with me. And it was a crazy transition, because with my first, I would take her to story time. I would take her to restaurants, out to lunch. We went to the parks. We went everywhere, and so then to transition to have this baby who wouldn't stop screaming, I couldn't take her anywhere. So it was kind of traumatizing for me. We slowly kind of became like imprisoned, because I was like, I'm not going to take a screaming baby to story time. I can't take her grocery shopping with me. I'm not going to sit her at a restaurant to have lunch. And so we stopped kind of going places.
That sounds incredibly lonely. Goodness.
It was getting lonelier and lonelier and traumatizing, because I was like, I felt like I was very prepared. Like, I have a degree.
Yeah.
In childhood. Like,
wait, someone offered me this fancy thing on the wall that says,
it says I know things. I also have my first baby who says that I know things, but I didn't. And so it was just crazy. Oh, and then she started being able to like walk and talk. And in some ways it got better, because she was sort of able to communicate, what she wanted, so that in ways that helped. But then in other ways it made it worse, because now she could walk and talk, and she was honestly kind of violent. Like, she would get mad, and this little toddler would walk around, and if she got mad, she'd throw chairs. She would bite people. She would pull hair, and I'm like, I don't know where she learned this. Like, this is not. We don't do this. This isn't a house where we do these things. So I don't know where she's getting this from. I don't know why she's doing it. But also, I'm not putting her in daycare, because I was genuinely afraid for other kids, being around her. I was like, she will bite them.
Yeah, I'm so curious, like, how was that for you kind of on your parent narrative? I know that there's so many Insta perfect parent kind of things that are out there, so much media out there that kind of says, this is the way it goes. This is what parenting looks like, And so I'm so curious about like, what was going on for you kind of behind the scenes while you're experiencing this?
Just complete, like, I don't know, she humbled me, but mostly it was just like, a lot of admitting, I guess I don't know what I'm doing, like, maybe at all. Like, I feel like I know what I was doing for my first, but for her, I'm like, I just don't know. So then it was just a lot of like trial and error. And then I was thinking, okay, maybe we should put her in daycare. Maybe like being around other kids would help her. And then COVID hit.
Oh my goodness. And so now you went from isolating yourself by choice to now you have to isolate by mandate.
Yes. So then we start going through like things like I discovered, you have like, I have to do other things. Like my baby wearing her isn't helping. A lot of my things aren't helping this kid. And so I have to start doing other things. So then I'm doing research, like, okay, I realized like my oldest, I could feed her whatever for breakfast. Some, like, if that means a sugar bomb, sometimes she can eat, a donut for breakfast and be fine. This one, she has to have protein. Like,
okay,
I can't do sugar for breakfast for this kid. Like, which, I mean, you shouldn't anyway, but
And sometimes you do, right? that's parenting.
Life is life. So sometimes they get donuts.
Yeah, I'm curious, like for her, what do you think it is about kind of the protein that, and how did you kind of identify that that was something that was really beneficial for her?
So I kind of identified it because I realized like I had started taking different like supplements like the B12 vitamins or trying different coffees. I love trying different things in general. And then I was starting to realize like B12 vitamins make me ragey. Like they help other people it makes them happy. They're like, oh, I have a great day if I take B12. I was like, it makes me like ragey where I'm like,
and I was like, so interesting.
So maybe I should start paying attention, you know, if things are affecting me for breakfast, obviously same for my kids. So I realized if I make sure that she has sausage or bacon or eggs or lots of like a protein heavy breakfast, it's a better day.
Okay.
Like, okay, that's fine. We can do that.
Yeah, right. That's an easy one to implement. Let's do that.
That's fine. And then I started hearing about the red dyes. Like, okay, I'll take out red food dyes. It helped.
What did you notice? Like what help were you kind of seeing?
She wasn't as trigger happy. Like she would still get mad. You know, she'd still have her moments, but it wasn't so constantly. It went from being like, you know, the entire day is wrecked to like maybe she'd have a few bad moments.
Okay.
So it took it. So now we're getting protein for breakfast. We don't have the red food dye. And then, so another thing that was different with my first, I didn't do TV. I was like, no, we don't have screen time. We don't watch TV. I'm not going to have TV for the first 2 years of her life. And I did pretty well with that. With my second, I was like, for my own sanity.
Yes.
I'm giving you screen time because like I need a moment where you're not screaming. And then she loved CoComelon.
Oh, I was just going to say, I wanted to pause there because there are so many of parents that I've heard even that do have those ideas of, you know, I really want to stick with this plan. And again, with wonderful intentions. And then sometimes when you find it's not working, it can feel really difficult to like stray from that plan because you're like, no, this is what I said I was going to do. And if I stray from that, you know, that means I failed, or, you know, whatever that narrative is that comes up for them. And I think what you just mentioned there, just being able to say for my own sanity so that I can actually like be a functioning human being and show up for my kids in all these other ways, maybe it does require some flexibility on kind of what that plan looked like.
Oh, totally. And it was very hard for me to like let go because people come to me professionally for parenting advice, you know, and so to have to be like, I'm no longer taking my own advice.
Yeah. Gosh.
Like it's hard to let go of those ideals. Like, you know what? Like the whole, like, don't reward them for crying by giving them candy. Like, you know, like sometimes for my own sanity, like I'm just gonna have to throw a chocolate at you.
Yeah.
like
here, please. I just need like 10 minutes of quiet, please.
Yes. But so then her favorite show was CoComelon.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've done any research on CoComelon.
It came after my kiddos, so I'm not too sure. Fill me in.
So CoComelon, there's been lots of studies done. I find this out like after months of her watching this and her being an angry kid. That because of the quick transitions and something about the way the show is set up, it angers children. It's something triggering in their brain, and it makes them ragey. And I'm like, oh, great. Of course, her favorite TV show that I use for my sanity,
right,
is the TV show that's like, you shouldn't let them watch this.
Of course.
But then now she likes Bluey. But like Bluey's amazing. I recommend it for all kids. Like parents, like she's polite and does the cutest things and says the cutest phrases now. Like, stop watching CoComelon and do Bluey.
Here's your plug for Bluey.
Yeah, seriously. Like, I love Bluey. Bluey's great.
So I've never watched it. Can you give me just like a quick summary, like what is Bluey? Again, my kids are older. They would look at something like that and go, oh, that's a baby show.
Yeah. So it's adorable. It's like these little Australian dogs. It's like a cartoon about, and so they have an adorable accent, and it's just this cute little family that they go through everyday life problems like, oh, we're moving today. This brings up a lot of sad emotions, but this is how we're going to handle our emotions.
Okay.
As a family together, we'll work through this problem. Or your fish died. Like real life kid problems. And how as a family they work together to like handle these little problems that come up in everyday life. And they do such a great job on this show.
And what I love, I mean, just from your synopsis there is, I heard you mention kind of the word together and like, doing things, problem solving together, like multiple times, just in that short, like, 2-minute synopsis that you gave me there. And I absolutely love that idea of the togetherness. I think that that's so incredibly helpful when we're talking about raising kids, because it can feel super lonely and it can feel like, what do we do? And if the mantra is like, hey, let's figure this out together, like it's not just you handle your own problems and figure your stuff out and then come back to me, I think that's amazing. Very cool.
Yeah, I love that show. It's helped so much, which once again, it's weird to be like a TV show helped, but no, it really did. It was.
Okay.
But the main thing, besides like, the protein and the red food dye and pay attention to what she's watching on TV, the main big thing that helped with her is it took almost 3 years. Like when my kids have problems, I want to help. I want to give them love. I want to hug them. I want to help them work through it. I want to give them a toy or a candy, something to help with the situation.
Yeah.
I realized with her, because one day, like she was having a meltdown and it was becoming violent, and I didn't know what to do. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put you in your room. Your room is full of soft blankets, stuffed animals. If you feel the need to throw things, throw a stuffed animal. Don't throw hard things.
Yeah.
Don't hurt people. Don't hurt yourself. Just get it out. I'm going to sit here and, basically cry because I don't know how to help you. And it was the craziest thing. I stuck her in there. She had her meltdown and it wasn't very big. It wasn't as big as it normally is. And then when she was done, she came out and was like, Mommy, can I have a hug now? I love you. I'm sorry. It's like,
whoa.
Yeah.
What? Like, what? And then I was like, wait a minute. This kid is literally like a match, like with fire. Like she's going to light up. She's going to get angry. But you just have to let her burn on her own. Like if I do anything, or if anyone else tries to insert themselves to help, it's like throwing gasoline on this little fire. But if you just let her process it, let her deal with it on her own, she'll deal with it, and then she'll come when she's ready, and then she'll let you help her then. But she needs like a little bit of time to herself to kind of lose it. Yeah. Which is maybe not the greatest, but that has helped so much. We no longer do the screaming. She's calmed down. Like just letting her have her emotions for a few minutes on her own in a safe environment without me trying to fix it or anyone else.
Yeah.
It helps.
Well, what's so interesting about what you just said is on my end of things, right? So my background, we do a lot of that same kind of studies as far as understanding kind of the brain and what's going on mental health wise. And I think that's exactly it. So many times we've got this idea, right, that we've got to fix our emotions. We've got to make them, especially the ones that are, quote unquote, negative emotions, like, oh, they're bad. Like, let's just get over them as fast as we can. And the difficulty is then they don't get kind of the time and space that they need. And that really is good for them to be able to kind of have that breathing room, just like that, the Inside Out movies, right? We talk about being able to kind of give them their space and their time. And then once they feel seen, once they feel heard, and validated in that way, and whatever that looks like. So for her, it sounds like, maybe she needs kind of that thrashed room, that raged room kind of that you see advertised, right? And that is a way that she's been able to kind of work through some of these things, give them their time, give them their space, instead of just kind of trying to suppress it and then having it come out in all these really like uncontrolled, much bigger ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. I found it on accident, but I'm like, okay. Like, if you need to feel your emotions for 5 minutes in order to not have to feel them for the next 3 hours, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, before we go on, I've got my stuff all mixed up. Am I just transferring it then to my oven safe? Perfect. I could do that. All right. And so kind of, is that since then things have been more manageable, or tell me more?
Oh yeah. Now she's like she's way different. Like, now we can go most days without having problems, or if we have a problem, we can be like, okay, give her space. No one tried to do anything, just let her deal with it. And then when she's done, she'll come out, she'll want her hug, she'll want her kiss, and then we all move on. So yeah, it's just figuring that out about her, that like you kind of have to treat her like fire.
Okay.
Like that, like, don't pour gasoline on her fire, just let her fire burn out. Like, and I it's like a little thing I have to always remind myself, because it's hard as a parent when you see your kid crying or you see a situation is developing, you want to instantly go and fix it or help them. And so it is hard to step back and be like, no, it's okay. Just let her breathe through it. Let her do whatever it is she has to do in her room by herself. But yes, it has helped so much.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like, have you found other things that you've been able to kind of add to her toolbox that help her kind of work through those big emotions and be able to regulate?
She loves art projects and puzzles.
Okay.
So I made sure her room is full of like soft things, so if she feels the need to throw things, we're not throwing chairs, we're throwing a stuffed animal. Okay. And then if she still needs alone time after she's released her demons or whatever, then there's art projects that she can do without my help. Like, if she makes a mess with it, I'm not going to be like, oh no, there's paint on the carpet. It's like crayons or, things that she can do on her own, puzzles she can do without my help. Okay. And so there's a lot of like by herself stuff that she can sit there and she can do and decompress. And then once she's done, and ready, like, I don't try to force her to come out or anything. When she's ready, she comes out, and then she'll usually want love and hug, and that's mostly it, is paying attention, and we don't wake her up. Like my oldest, if she doesn't get enough sleep or we want to do something early for the day, like she can handle it. Whereas my youngest, I'm like, nope, she's gonna get her 12
she needs her full
whole sleep. So we let her sleep until she wakes up. Okay. It's gonna be interesting when school starts. That's still a huge concern of mine, because obviously in school we're gonna have to handle things very differently. But
so how old was she when you kind of found this hack, if you will, to kind of help her with her emotions? Because I know you said 12 sitters, right, before she turned 1. And so, like, where are we in her timeline then?
Probably about 3 years old.
Okay.
So it took her a long time.
Wow. So 3 years of kind of having to navigate that kind of state and seeing your kiddo kind of just be, gosh, so overwhelmed. I imagine that doesn't feel great in the body for your kid. And then to kind of watch that as a parent and just be at your wit's end of how do I help? How do I make it better for everybody?
Yeah. And there's so many like moments I can think of that were hard. Like, cause you'll get parenting advice from everyone. And there, I can't tell you the amount of people who are like, you just need to like get like hurt her, like
Really?
you know, give her thinking, or you need to give her. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. So that was that was like a hard boundary for me, where I'm like, you know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a good smack would solve my problems, but that's not how I parent. You know, I'm just not doing it. And so maybe that made it a lot harder for me, but at least that is one thing in my parenting journey where I was like, you know what? TV, fine. Sugar, fine. I'm not crossing that line. And it's hard when you have a lot of older people who want to like insert themselves in the situation. And that's how the generation did things, to sit there and be like, no.
I mean, what would you respond? Because I know I've heard similar things. I imagine other parents listening have heard similar, you know, people kind of advocating for this. Like, how do you, in the face of that, still kind of stick to your boundaries, like you mentioned, and say, hey, this is a hard line I'm not willing to cross? Like, how did you respond? How did you deal with that?
So mostly it was just a lot of nodding, smiling. Like, obviously I'm not letting anyone else touch my kid, you know, so that wasn't really anything I had to deal with. But as far as like them telling me, it was depending on the situation, it was either a lot of nodding and smiling, like, okay, thanks for the advice, like whatever. Or like, no, that's not what we're doing, or whatever. But it was a lot of having to walk outside for a minute and remind myself, like, you know what, maybe in this moment, it might help me, you know, if I were to just, you know, shock her into silence, but that's not going to help her. You know, that in the long run, it helps my peace for 5 minutes. It's not going to help her process things. It's not going to help her communicate. It's not going to help her. It's to satisfy me in this moment. And I can do other things in this moment to satisfy my need for peace, like walk outside, you know, or, you know, eat some chocolate myself, or be like, tag my husband in, like, tell him I need to go get my nails done. I'll be back. Like, you handle this for an hour. Or there was a lot of going to the park, just like, go be free.
Go run, please. Some of it.
She loved the swings. That was one thing. She loves the swings. So it was like, okay, you know what? We'll go to the swings, and she'll do the swings for hours. So it was a lot of reminding myself, like, this would help me, not her. And I need to help her. So
it also sounds like it really challenged you to have to find your own coping skills to be able to kind of work through, okay, I could do this. I can keep going. It is going to take work on my end. Like you said, it may not be the quick and easy.
Yeah.
But that it sounds like you were able to kind of find your way and find your own, you know, skills that kind of helped you be able to write it out as well. Yeah.
I needed my own coping skills, because my first did not give me any.
I mean, right? You know, this is the glass, you know, half full of that. It sounds like it allowed you an opportunity to kind of grow in some of those ways that maybe you didn't get the challenge the first time.
Yeah, I made like a joke with myself, like everything was a mom level up, you know, like, so like something crazy would happen, and I'd be like, all right, I leveled up as a mom today, you know, like, like a video game character.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great way to reframe that, instead of like, hey, this is just hard all the time, and kind of getting stuck in that mindset of like, hey, you know what, this is a challenge. It means I get to learn something new so that I can level up. And now we go on to the next level, and, you know, eventually, hopefully reach our and you get your prize and your trophy. Maybe. I don't know if that actually exists in parenthood, but you can hope for it.
Yeah, right. Hopefully. Well, and it's funny. So I've been saying a lot of like negative things about her, but she's also very funny. Like, she wasn't like this constant horror show like I'm making her out to be. She's a Gemini. So I don't know if you're into astrology at all, but so Geminis are very much, they're called the twins, where they have two different personalities. So as much as she could be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and just like going off the deep end, she could instantly swing back into like the funniest, most loving, like sweetest kid you've ever met in your life. And it's funny because for other people, she'll be like, and they'll be like, oh, she's the sweetest kid I've ever met. And you're like,
my kid?
Which kid are you talking about?
Who are we talking about right now?
Yeah.
But,
and you know what? I feel like I've heard that a lot from the second kids. I don't know if it's just everyone that I've spoken to, but I know that I can absolutely relate. My husband and I, we would call our youngest, who is also our second, kind of, oh my gosh, in a Sour Patch Kid, where like it could very much be that, like, chopping your hair off while you sleep. And then the next morning when you get up, it's like hugs and kisses and, oh my gosh, I love you so much. And it's like, what just happened?
Yep. It's that second kid energy. But
yeah.
It's funny because as crazy as it is, like, I wouldn't change it or change her. Like, she's pretty awesome. I think as long as like we make it to adulthood, she'll do something really awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, that was another thing I was gonna say. It got to the point with her where I was like, maybe she's autistic. Because I just couldn't figure out why she was so fiery. So I did actually have her evaluated at one point, and they were like, nope, she's just a little firecracker. She like, so. But yeah, if you want to talk about like deep levels of thinking, like trying to figure it out, I was like, I even went down that road where it's like, maybe I'm in denial and there is, something more going on, but yeah.
Yeah. Was that, I mean, even just making the call and kind of the humblingness, the fortitude, whatever word you want to use, that it takes to kind of even get to that point of being willing to go out and to seek support, and, whether it's an assessment or whatnot, like, was that a difficult kind of, barrier to get past?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to try to like look yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, you need help. Maybe like, maybe you are doing that, like, oh, it's a mother's love. She's, there's nothing wrong with your kid, like kind of situation. And like to try to look yourself in the mirror and be like, maybe there is, maybe she does have something going on and you're just like living in denial for the last 3 years. But no, I took her. And I mean, it's funny because it's like a relief to find out, like, no, like she's not on the spectrum. But then also we're back to like, okay.
So what now? Yeah. So where are my answers?
Excuses. There's no excuse. Like she just is a little firecracker. Okay. Like, I don't know if it would have been a relief to find out that there was a reason, or if, I don't know. I mean, not that you want to find out that there's something wrong. I
can appreciate that. I think it's also what you mentioned, just having more answers, right? Because now if we have the answer, now we can start looking at like, geared, researched kind of solves and fixes, because we know what we're addressing, versus when it's very nebulous and you don't have any answers and you're just kind of flailing, trying whatever to help fix it and hope that it sticks, but you kind of don't know what you're trying to address. I imagine that can be really difficult.
Yeah, that summed it up really, really well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so curious, like, for you, what were there any like insights or resources that you wish you knew about sooner?
I think, well, it would have been really nice to know, like, from the beginning about like the cocomelon and the red food dye. And I mean, I it's weird because a lot of the things seem like common sense things once you put the like little aha moment on it.
Okay.
Like, I feel like every parent at this point knows you're not supposed to give your kid red food dye, or, you know, feed them sugar bombs for breakfast. Like, that's like, duh, like, obviously. But, you know, I guess I didn't take it as serious. Like, I knew it, but I didn't take it as serious as maybe I should have, because with my
so maybe you heard about it, but we're
I heard about it. But my first was able to, like, if she had red food dye, it was not the end of the world. Like, we went on our merry way. Whereas with my second, it was like, oh no, for real.
Yeah.
This really, really affects her, like, a lot.
That's a really great point, because again, it's that whole idea that it's not a one size fits all. And so your kiddo is going to be unique. So maybe one kiddo, it doesn't really impact them as much, or, you know, as noticeably maybe. However, for the next kid, it might. And so, you know, if you're trying to kind of fit them in the same exact size box, it sounds like it may not work.
It does not work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was, it would have, I guess, helped knowing that, like, when people say, oh, each kid is going to be different, they don't mean like in the cutesy, like, oh, this kid's going to be into this type of clothing and this kid's going to be into this type of music. They, like, it's for real. They're like two completely and utterly different in every way people.
Wow.
Even if they look alike and sound alike and they're both your kids and they have the same parents, nope, they are so different.
I'm curious, would anything be different? Like, if you had a time machine and you could go back in time and tell yourself something, either whether it's to prepare yourself or even, you know, something that you can share with others that might be experiencing something similar, like, what would you tell yourself, or how would you prepare yourself differently maybe?
I mean, I never would have introduced Coco Melon.
Okay.
I would have started
Melon, yeah.
I would have started Bluey way a long time ago, but mostly a lot of, like, going outside. Like, if it's too much, don't let your house become a prison. Like, if your kid's screaming, it's still okay to take them to the park. You know, I mean, like, take them outside, give yourself some room. I mean, if it's to the point that it's a problem and, you know, your kid won't stop screaming at the park, at least give it some time. Give your kid a chance to find something that's interesting to them, because yeah, it's not okay to take them to the library if they're screaming or whatever, but mostly go outside. Being outside helps your sanity, it helps them. It just seems to help overall if you can find a way to get outside without, like, bothering too many people. Do that. And soft things.
Go for it.
Soft
things.
Soft things.
I was going to ask, you know, you mentioned that, you know, going out and kind of that public perspective, was that ever something that you encountered where people were maybe shaming you or, you know, giving you dirty looks with the screaming?
So looking back, there's a lot of times that I think I was mentally shaming myself more so than necessarily other parents, because there were so many times I was actually surprised that the cops didn't get called, like, because I swear it probably looked like I was kidnapping my own child, like, so many times.
Oh my goodness.
Like, trying to leave Costco or trying to leave a park, you know, or leave something that she was actually into, you know, or she wasn't into, and it was like, okay, it is time to go, because at this point we're being a disruption to, like, other people. So if I look back on it, I don't know that I was necessarily getting all of those dirty looks or those judgments. You know, it was a lot of me doing it to myself, you know, because I feel like other parents, especially other parents with, like, the dragon kids or just kids that aren't unicorns, like, they understand. They've been there. Other parents have been there. So, you know, and I've had other parents come up and offer to help me, you know, and where,
oh my goodness,
helpful.
Yes, depending on the situation. I mean, so I feel like I did a lot of self-isolating, because there's a lot of, like, oh, don't trust other strangers, you know, what if they're trying to steal your kid, or, you know, whatever. So then you have to do the whole like mental, like, oh wait, this is actually like just a mom who like, she understands what you're going through. Like
she gets it.
Accept the help. Like, like don't sit there and make it worse mentally for yourself, you know? So if I could go back, I probably would have given myself an extra 5 minutes, you know, at the park, or I would have been more receptive to the mom that came up to help, you know, been like, thank you. Like,
use a 5 minute, like, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Or thank you for not calling the cops on me. I promise this is my kid. I'm just trying to take her home because I realize she's having a moment. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think that,
I was just gonna say, I think that that's such a huge piece that you just mentioned, that self-shame. I feel like us as parents are really, really good at doing that, of just like really seeing this and being kind of our most critical person about what's happening. And are there people out there that might be giving you dirty looks? Yeah, there's a lot of jerks out there. However, like you said, that there might be more people than you think that are going, I feel you, like I see you, and here, how can I help? And are willing to help, even like you said, if it's just for 5 minutes. And sometimes it can be really hard to see that when you are just so entrenched in your self-shame, your self-guilt, even. So, wow, gosh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, if I could go back, I'd be like, tell all the parents, give yourself 5 more minutes to breathe and to realize that all of your negative thoughts, they're your thoughts, they're not necessarily their thoughts. And even if it is their thoughts, it's fine. Like, give everyone a little more time to let the situation decompress, and you breathe, your kid breathe, everyone just
wow,
instantly away.
All right, so I've got my prep that I'll put in the oven. I did ahead of time kind of prep us with some. Now, so when you have this, do you just eat it by itself, or like what's your guys' favorite way to
tortilla chips?
Chips?
Yes.
Okay.
I already have a bag of tortilla chips waiting. So once this is cooked, once it's nice and hot and bubbly, we will dig in with the tortilla chips.
Okay, so I will make sure to have some tortilla chips. I'm sure my kiddos will love it. And like you said, a great way. You got your spinach in here, you got your artichokes, get them a little of those good fats as well. I feel you on the lower side of the growth. I've been hearing that narrative about my own kiddos since they were born. So I feel that. But guess what? My kids are also, they're thriving. They're growing just fine. Yes, they're smaller, but mom and dad are short people too. So we can't really ask a whole lot from them.
Oh, same. My husband's 5'4". I'm 5'2". So I'm like, my kids were never going to be.
Right. Like, I mean,
weren't set up for 6 foot capabilities, and that's okay.
Yes, exactly. Like, they're gonna be little. It's fine.
What, there's a ton of things that when you're shorter that you get to do that others can't. So
exactly.
There we go. Well, Melissa, it was so great to have you on here. Thank you so much for being willing to share your story. I know that talking about the harder sides of parenting isn't as readily done as I wish it were. And so I really do appreciate you being willing to kind of help pull back the curtain and show us that, gosh, it's hard and it takes work. And I just want to thank you for taking that time for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes. And thank you for sharing this recipe with us. I'm super excited to try it. And for everyone else, thanks so much for joining us. We'll make sure to link the recipe that Melissa shared with us today. Thanks so much. If you or anyone that you know is struggling with any of the topics that we discussed in today's episode, make sure to check out our show notes for support and resources. You can get help. Thanks again for joining us on today's episode of The Real Family Eats. If you're a parent ready to share your real life parenting story, make sure to reach out to us in our website found in the show notes. And that goes for today's recipe, social medias, support, and resources. All of that can be found in our show notes. So make sure to check them out. And make sure to follow, like, share, subscribe, and stay up to date on all things the Real Family Eats. I hope you'll join us next time for more food for thought and thoughtful food. Enjoy your eats.